Hey guys, Saf with another Raid Shadow Legends video. It's that time again where we have a new patch in Raid Shadow Legends, and it is time to do another patch notes breakdown. Now, this video, as always, in this video series is two parts. The first part, I break down the official patch notes, where they often include some sort of fixes and changes that they didn't release in the highlights. And the second part then is an unofficial patch notes where I give you information that exists within the game code through data mining that potentially should have been put in the patch notes or might give you an insight into what is coming next. So let's do the first part and let's have a look at what they have added to patch 5.5. So this patch is quite small in terms of features. It mainly focuses on a few quality of life, specifically around the Forge. And of course, we have the new fragment fusion that has just started, Bivald of the Thorn. And we also have some champion rebalances. I'm not going to cover all of these details in great detail. I've covered some of them in the highlights video in terms of what I think about them. But let's take a look at what they've got here. So the battle turn counter, is, as I said, it's not a very high quality of life thing for me. I think it's nice to have. It's great if it was easy to implement, great. But I wouldn't want to have seen any focus put towards this. We now can see the actual limit of 1,500 turns in the game, which is great, especially if you've got an Infinity company pushing for a world record, or if you want to kind of get that record in the Doom Tower rankings. For turn count, you can see where you're losing turns. So that's a good addition. Nothing else to really say. Forge improvements, I think, is a really good change. The 10 times crafting feels like a shard pull now. It'd be nice if we could quick select through and delete the ones we didn't want. But otherwise, it's exactly the way that it should have gone to try and speed up the whole forging. Otherwise, we've been relying on Farbstaff's RSL helper for auto forging. They have adjusted the forge material drop balance to faction stages 20 and 21. Now I'm going to cover this in the data mining section in the unofficial patch notes, but effectively from what I can see, they haven't changed stage 21 at all. They've only changed stage 20. We also have then the changes to the tag team arena. We've got some more information now in terms of how much we get in terms of promotion places and demotion places. We can see that roughly the actual limit has increased by double. Goal 2 looks like the promotion places is not quite double, but it's near enough there. And of course, going up into goal 4 here is also double as well. So what I think we're going to see is a lot of people in Bronze 1 are all of a sudden going to be sitting in promotion without even trying too hard. You're going to kind of climb up a little bit higher. People who've been sitting around Silver 3, Silver 4 will probably be able to get into Gold now, because a lot of players in Gold 1, 2, and 3 will probably jump up a rank. So if you're going for Romanto, this is a great time to do it. It's a great change. If you want to try and get access to the better rewards in gold, it's good. I think it's a good time to actually try and put 3 teams together and get yourself in gold 1. I personally quite enjoy tag team these days. I find it's the few places where you actually have to strategically build teams in counter to specific things you're facing, rather than a one and done solution. There's always different dynamics you need to consider. The whole system needs a bit of a think in terms of the fact it's just 3 classic arenas rather than being tagged. But I think generally this is the first step to making tag team arena a little bit more engaging, and players should be more motivated, hopefully, by the fact that they feel like they can actually climb higher than just silver and get rubbish rewards. So we've now got the rebalances here. Some of these I haven't touched in the unofficial patch notes because they haven't changed their multipliers, and Necro Hunter is one of these. They have now changed his A2 to being a single attack followed by an AoE. The problem with his AoEs, it's too weak. It's a 2.5 times attack multiplier. Most AoEs are about a 3 to a 4, somewhere in that region. So what you tend to find when you look at this type of ability is it probably will kill the target you select, but it will soften up everyone else. So unless it's a single reviver and you're not too worried about the other guys taking a turn, or you've got some other follow-up, then you're going to find he's not that useful. Potentially good into Duchess, but I think they've taken him in the right direction, but maybe potentially just not far enough. He's a bit like a Foley without the block revive in terms of like the way you would play him, but doesn't really carry the same damage as Foley either. Got a new aura added, crit rate in all battles, it's average at best. And then he's also got a cooldown reduction on his A3. So nice changes. Will he become any sort of meta champion? Absolutely not. Could you use him in the early game? Probably. He'd probably be an all right nuker, but I wouldn't imagine you'd want to 6-star him at all. Kalia obviously has pretty much had a damage increase across the board, but they've also changed the debuffs here for her. So instead of it being conditional, she's now, as long as you book her, going to place all of her debuff effects all the time. So the A3 is always going to be 100% when not booked, which is nice. And the A2, if you want that heal reduction, which is quite low value, if you book it, will be 100% as well to all enemies. I'm going to touch on her multiplier changes in the unofficial part, where we've got the breakdown of what that actually means. But this is actually a decent change. Whether or not it's enough, I'm not too sure, but we'll discuss a bit further on. Frostbringer, they haven't touched her multipliers. All they have done is change to A1 to be more reliable. I think the A1 is quite pointless. Nobody really cares enough about heal reduction. Maybe has some validity in something like Ice Golem, maybe Finite, but it's quite low value. A2, they've changed it from requiring the heal reduction. I think that's quite a big change. The fact it's now just a random attack, decreased defense that is, I think, guaranteed when booked is nice. It's pretty good into Clan Boss. It's pretty good into sort of Ice Golem. It feels like she's placed better for Ice Golem than she is other areas, maybe even for Fire Knight with that triple hitter. The only thing I wish they would have changed is converting her A3 into a 3-turn cooldown when booked rather than 4. I think being on a 4-turn cooldown, she gets excluded from a lot of potential Clan Boss speed turns because you kind of need that 3-turn, bit like Lydia, a bit like Ares. You need that 3-turn increased speed. And she is one of the only champions, if not the only champions, that does increase attack and increase speed on the same ability. So if you have this champion in the early to mid game, she's probably very good for your Clan Boss team. You know, you're getting decreased defense on a regular basis, you get an increased attack, and you're getting increased speed. Those are really high value debuffs and buffs. Heal reduction, not so much, but you know, you take that with a grain of salt. Do I think it's enough change that she's now really good? Again, it's a step in the right direction, but it needed to go a little bit further. Finally, we've got Woad painted. We're going to touch on this and cover all of this in the unofficial patch notes where I have the changes to her multipliers. We've got some champion and battle fixes. So Karato, Fox Hunter's sort of build in the code is actually quite bad to begin with. He has effectively 3 different effects for 3 different scenarios, whether it's a boss, whether he's ascended, whether it's a champion. And you end up in this position where you basically, he'll pick one of his 3 different ways he's going to do his skills. So it doesn't surprise me here that we've got a bug with Karato at all on Dread Bombs. Bommel is the buggiest boss of them all. We always get like multiple different bombs sort of still staying there, not moving off the screen and different things. So all they've done is they've just put an adjustment here so that they bug fix it. Probably the biggest thing of this patch here is the total stats window will now show you the stats of your champion. I don't really know why this was taken away or what caused it. It happened when they added skins to the game. But this, for me, is quite a valuable thing to have. It helps you quickly identify, is my champion built when I've got them in a team. This is probably the biggest thing that people will want out of this patch back anyway. I'd imagine there's already a Reddit post somewhere saying, thank God they re-added this to the game. Fixed a bug would cause the enemy team powers to disappear and nobody really cares. They've done a lot of different Dread Bomb fixes. The main thing I think people need to be aware of, and this is a little bit of an official part, they've changed it so that you can't freeze a Dread Bomb when the Dread Bomb is taking a turn where you could before. So passive based freezes such as Gergo, such as Tutorant, those passive based freezes will no longer work when the Dread Bomb explodes. It was probably causing a bug and actually probably wasn't doing anything. So it doesn't affect the way you would approach Bommel, but it's just something to note that that is what they have changed to fix these problems about double animation bugs. I believe that is what the cause was. Fixed a bug that caused the game to freeze after Madame Sarah's placed a shield. I've had this problem. You basically sat there for 10 to 15 seconds going, what's going on? Fixed a bug that caused battles to stop after one. That's nice. All of these, lots of little quality of life changes, and these things at the bottom here, I'm sure people who are anti-red dots will appreciate the fact that the red dots go away. So that's the end of the first part. That's the patch notes. It's quite a small patch, but I think has a lot of good stuff in it. Let's now jump over to the unofficial part and take a look at what they haven't told you about. Okay, a disclaimer with this section, as I always give every video, these facts, figures, numbers are data mined from the game code. So whilst they have a level of accuracy and a level of correctness, they're not officially released from Plarium, so they are subject to change at any point in time. But they are a good indication of where we're going, what we've got, and what is happening. So without further ado, let's take a look. So the first change here is they have been over the last couple of patches tweaking the max daily rated losses you can take in Classic Arena Defense. So that's the number of defeats per day you can take that you will lose ranking points on. So we started with something like 50 when all the arena kind of blew up and it was a major problem. They dropped it right down to 5. That was way too few because people then just ended up in platinum. They then increased it to 12, and now they're increasing it again. I think this is going to happen for a few patches yet until they find the right level, the right balance for this number. The change this time is Gold 4 is going from 12 defeats per day to 15, and Gold 5 is going from 12 defeats to 15. No other rank has changed, so it's only Gold 4 and Gold 5 they're targeting. That tells me they're quite happy with the lower rankings in terms of how many people are there, but they still feel like potentially there is too much growth in the platinum tier for the points, and that needs to be brought down a little bit by basically causing people to deflate points a little bit more. As I said, I expect this to be tweaked a little bit further. It probably will settle around 20 to 25, I reckon. Faction Wars rewards. I can only see that they changed stage 20. Unless I'm misunderstanding it, that is what I can see. They've effectively made stage 20 the same value as stage 21. They have changed the epic chance, so you can get either the soul stone or the perception, I think it is, whichever way it goes. You can get either one of those, and they are now going from 10% chance to 15% chance. And the legendary percentage chance is going from 40% chance to 35% chance. So it basically just brings a little bit more towards the epic. I don't think this is a significant change, but what it does mean, you don't need to farm 21 if you want better legendary materials. Some people might find that problematic, but from the last video, a lot of people seem to suggest that this change is very good. They needed more epic materials. I cannot see any other changes to any other stages, only stage 20. So the first champion we're going to look at for the rebalances is Kalia. She is an attack-based champion. She does have very poor squishy stats. She's really low HP and really low defense, so keeping her alive is a bit tricky, but her base attack is quite high at nearly 1600. She's also very fast at 106 base speed. They haven't really changed how many attacks. All they've literally done is increase her multipliers. So the A1 is going from a 2.8 to a 3.2. It's a 0.4 increase. That's pretty healthy. The A2, the AoE, is going from 3.5 to a 4. That 4 is quite high as a multiplier, but it still doesn't quite make some godlike damage dealers. And then the A3 is a random attack. It is 1.6 and now it's become 2. So that's a 0.4 increase. We've got this as weak because our random attack coding considers what the damage would be against a single target. If you were to look for a single opponent, such as a boss or clan boss, then obviously this becomes a godlike damage ability because you're going to get 2 times attack on the same boss 3 times. And that becomes a 6 times attack, and that is quite a lot then. In terms of her AoE, where she sits now, she is around about the same level of damage as a Herndig or in terms of AoE damage potential, but she does lack the utility that those champions have. You haven't got, Gembo ignores unkillable, Herndig has got his extra turns and the debuffs alongside it. So it's a good change. It brings her up to almost a godlike damage dealer. She's right on the cusp. So if you pull her early, you need a nuker. She's probably a decent option. And potentially she might have some viability in Hydra with a 3 random attack HP burn. HP burn has been one of the best ways to deal damage to Hydra. The only problem is keeping her alive, and she doesn't do anything else other than the HP burns and that. So you could basically build a low damage but high HP burn and just try and cycle with reflex. It could be like a Geomancer type thing. Is she better than the other burners? Probably not. She can't really get through the poison cloud like someone like Mordecai or Drexar. But I think if you haven't got a Geomancer, you haven't got any other HP burns, then and you've got Kalia, it might be a consideration if you want to try and progress in Hydra. Then the other champion we obviously have got here is Wyad Painted. This is the biggest change for me in this patch. She now becomes an actual desirable epic to pull. She is now fully HP based. Before, her attack multipliers were kind of a combination of attack and HP. Some of the older champions seem to have this mixed damage profile. It was quite difficult to build these champions. So now it's actually much better because we can forget attack exists on her. They've increased her speed from 92 to 97, which means she's now on par with other epics. And they've changed the A1 from a 0.8 times attack and a 0.08 HP to a 0.13 times HP. That's rated as average. And her A3, her other damaging ability, is going from 2 times attack and 0.35 times HP to a 0.42 times HP. So when I've done the math here, all of these are average hitters because they're a HP-based damage dealer, but it does show a rough increase in her damage generally across the board because of the way that this scales. It means as well you can just stack HP and stack speed. Now, everyone knows, however, that the A1 and A3, or everyone should know the A1 and A3, you almost forget she has it in her kit. The only thing that Wyad is going to be really, really good for is her A2. That is a massive AoE heal. There is not many champions that can match the volume and quality of her AoE healing now. Put her in a reflex set, put her in max HP, put her in speed, index into a bit of defense if you want. Forget she deals damage and just cycle the heals and she will keep your team alive forever. She's really strong for that. I'm probably going to do, as a result of this Wyad change and a couple of other champions, a bit of a healing tier list next. We've had Wither added to the game. We've had a couple of other things like a Pardon. It'll be really interesting to see if we kind of take the champion's ability to heal, because obviously there's variations in terms of, is it my HP or is it the target HP that I'm targeting for the heal quantity? I'm going to have a look and see which champion can heal the most, and I'll probably try and put a tier list together to help people pick, if I need a healer, who am I bringing to the game? But that's Wyad Painted. I think this is the best rebalance we've had in a while. It's taken a champion that was totally useless to being a champion that actually has a physical place in the game. The A1 and A3 could have had some better uses, but I think generally we can't ask for much from an epic rebalance. And finally, we also have a new champion for the login rewards. If you're like me, you're probably coming up towards the end of the month for having Girder Bog Brew fragments to 100. After that, they always said we were going to get a new champion, and they are following the trend of doing a epic into a legendary, into an epic, into a legendary, and they are a new champion. So we don't have as much information on this champion, but for what I've been able to data mine out of the game, the champion will be called Lady Eresh. That is subject to change because that has been taken out of the game code now and it might come back as different. We've got a portrait for the champion here. It looks like some sort of banner lord or a sacred order, something of that nature. Could even be, I suppose, Knight Revenants. They also have similar artwork. It will be an epic champion. You will get 20 fragments on day 10 and 30 fragments on day 30. So you need 2 months to get this champion. And there is no information about what this champion does like Deliana. We're just going to have to look at the kind of pictures of the skill icons here and kind of guess what it does. And they don't really give you sort of any kind of indication. Obviously, the third one, the red one, looks a little bit like a power up of some sort. And that could be a passive skill on that fourth one. So we'll probably see this champion come in at the end of the fusion. Deliana starts the day at the fusion ends as well, which is interesting to note. So we'll probably have the fusion into Deliana, then into another patch update. And I would imagine in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see some news about Hydra changes as well. So that's something interesting to look forward to. Hopefully they've listened and they start targeting some of the real issues with Hydra so that people can actually get into the game mode. Once you get into it and you start having some options in terms of champions, it actually is quite fun, quite challenging and quite engaging, but the RNG is just too heavily weighted towards frustration and anger right now. So that's the end of the video. If you like this content, please give it a thumbs up. I do this every week to make sure I'm giving everyone all of the information they should be getting from Playroom, as well as my opinions on what Playroom have done in the game. I will probably have a couple of videos coming out in the next couple of days on my thoughts on the Forge Pass, and I've also got a champion guide coming out on Alika, so keep your eyes peeled for that, and I'll catch you in the next video.